because we're not just selling properties as well. We're helping people build a real estate business. We're providing, all the guidance and resources they need on what type of LLC structure you need, what are the best financing options based on your goals. So we have a marketplace of turnkey inventory across the country, but we also want people to be successful long term because we know that real estate investing is a lifelong journey.
Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Jack Bosch Show, where we talk about all things finance and real estate. Today, we're going to talk about a combination of both and how you can invest in turnkey real estate, built from the ground up, brand new product, and even use creative finance to actually make it happen. My guest today is Zach Lemaster. He is the CEO of Rent to Retirement, which is the largest turnkey operation in the United States. Welcome, Zach. How are you doing?
Hey, Jack. I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. Great. So let's just jump right into it. And tell me about what does Rent to Retirement do and what is turnkey investing in the first place?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. The first thing is turnkey investing. It is a buzzword. It's one of these things that you hear about all the time, and there's possibly different definitions. So I'll be clear on what we at Rent to Retirement view as a turnkey investment property and what the goal is behind that. But essentially what we do, Jack, is we identify the best markets throughout the country based on a handful of criteria to determine where the best investment opportunities are and make those available to our investor community where we handle everything for them. This is mainly new construction properties in the single family and small multifamily space where we've built a house. Most of this is new construction, and we also lease and manage it for investors. So our investors have the ability to build their personal portfolio of rental properties to scale quicker and diversify across different locations without having to, develop their own team in one of these areas. We've already developed that for them so they can focus on their other real estate goals, their family, their business. And that's essentially what we do.
So in other words, somebody has a successful business or has a good income, has some savings and things, and wants to get some rental properties. What most people do is they basically go start looking around for some rental property in their local market. They get it, and then it needs repairs, and then they're getting sucked into the nightmare of being a landlord. And they have they have to chase the tenants, and they have a roof leak, and they have the things, and soon enough they're like, I don't want to deal with that, and they go sell that house again. And you actually solve that problem by finding them the right markets where the numbers make really sense and where there's some upside perhaps or so, or where it's very stable markets. You build a product for them. You build a house that is so it's brand new. It doesn't have any deferred maintenance and stuff like that. You put the tenant in place, you vet the tenant, put the tenant in place, and then you manage it, and they make the majority of the cash flow. Is that right?
Yeah, essentially that's correct. I mean, in addition to just taking out we always want to approach this like a business, right? And we always encourage our investors to approach this like a business, but we want it to be more like a passive approach to investing. As you just mentioned, many people have had the nightmare experience of owning rental real estate locally or out of state, whatever the case is, and having tenant repairs, trying to manage property, and that's just not scalable. Plus, it's probably not where their time is best utilized or should be utilized. And so, in addition to handling that for them, we also allow them to tap into markets outside of their local market where there is probably better opportunity, right? I mean, one thing in my story as I came into investing, I started as we were talking before the show, I started in a background in healthcare, as an optometrist in the Air Force. And then I exited the Air Force, moved into private practice, and then eventually replaced my income through rental property investing. But the pivotal moment that allowed my wife and I to be successful is when we learned how to invest out of state. And that wasn't easy to begin with because we had to build our teams up and learn from trial and error, learn how to evaluate markets and build teams around these different areas. But we soon learned that if we were strategic about the locations that we were investing in, that allowed us to expedite our goals. We were able to make the entire nation our investing platform to strategically choose where the best investment opportunities were for cash flow, for appreciation, all of these things combined. And so it allowed us to be more strategic investors as well. And so that's the same thing that we try to do for our investors.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, what are the best markets to be in right now? What kind of markets are you looking for? Are you looking for markets that are particularly stable over a long time? Are you looking for markets that have a high appreciation potential? Are you looking for markets that have the best tenants, or all of this? Is this like the holy grail that I just laid out?
We all of those are important points to consider, although it is a spectrum. We want to be in areas that are going to set ourselves and our investors up for sustainability long term. So we have kind of our fundamental criteria for all markets that we invest in. For example, we want to be in areas that have landlord-friendly legislation, low taxes. We want to be in the path of progress, areas that are growing, have high rental demand, high rental rates relative to home prices, so we can actually cash flow on those properties. But a lot of economics 101 points to areas where there's an undersupply of housing and a huge demand and a growing demand. A lot of this is the Southeast. We work in two main geographic locations, so your Midwest and your Southeast. And so our Midwestern areas would be more like affordable type housing. Average house price may be $150,000, $200,000, just a blue collar kind of workforce housing type of property that you're not going to see crazy appreciation on, but very stable income year after year. In the Southeast, this is more of a growth market where homes are priced a little bit higher. Average home price for a new construction single family may be $260,000, $300,000. That probably rents out at that $2,200 to $2,400 a month. So it still cash flows, but it's a little bit higher price point. But you likely will see higher appreciation both in rents and home prices year after year. And that is where we do the majority of our business because we like growth markets. This would be like Alabama, areas around Huntsville and Birmingham, in the Carolinas, Texas, as long as we can make properties cash flow with the property taxes there. Florida is probably our most active market, Central and Southwest Florida. So these are some of the areas where there's an extreme undersupply of housing, where we want to be invested to ensure that the houses consistently grow in value and we can keep the houses rented.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good analysis now. And when an investor comes to you or a person comes to you and invest, how does this typically look like? Well, first of all, you're building from ground up. So do you partner with builders in the area or you're building these properties yourself? I assume it's the prior, but I just want to clarify.
Well, actually, to peel back the onion a bit, we have three different main models, business structures for building. We do about 10% where with our internal teams are doing ground up construction. About another 40 or 50%, we're developing the land and hiring builders in those areas to building. And then the additional, whatever 50% with that, a good portion is actually partnering with like national builders where we're able to come in and negotiate wholesale pricing on already built homes because we're doing volume and make that available, make institutional type of pricing and availability available to the average investor that they wouldn't otherwise have access to because we're doing inventory. There's a perfect example of this, just to be transparent, is we have a partnership with D.R. Horton and LGI Homes, where the average investor would have to pay their retail pricing, but we actually offer a 12% below retail pricing to our investors. So they literally, on a $300,000 house, that's like whatever, $36,000, $40,000 below market pricing that our investors get access to just by being a part of our network. So either we're building it, we're developing it and hiring builders, or we're partnering with national builders as well to offer inventory in a market that we want to be in.
Now, in this particular case, with the partnership with D.R. Horton, you're not buying entire neighborhoods from them. Because my understanding is, correct me if I'm wrong, that cities don't really want entire build-to-rent communities. Particularly, D.R. Horton is a community builder, not a rent-to-own builder. So, what they're selling you is like a percentage of the neighborhood that you buy, right? Or
we get to pick and choose. Now, each neighborhood is different, and they build all across the country. Not every market not every market we want to be invested in because the numbers just don't make sense. Sometimes there's HOA or community regulations on rental properties. There are some build-to-rent communities, and we are seeing that more in Florida. But more or less, what we're doing is cherry picking the best deals in the communities that are being developed, or they also do infill lots as well. I would say the majority of the properties that we focus on are not in a community-based type of environment where they're doing tract homes side by side. You know what I mean? It's more or less small communities, infill lots where it's already in an established type of neighborhood, or cherry picking the areas where we can have rentals where we know the numbers still work.
Okay, so basically an infill lot where you can put 15, 20 houses on there. They build them, you take them all, and then it becomes a little thing. Or what are the size of these kind of infill lot developments that you take over?
Yeah, and now I know we're talking your language, right? With
With the land, of course.
Yeah, land flipping. So, it could be as small as a 10,000 square foot lot that is a single family house. Maybe it has room for a duplex on there. or it could be 2 to 3 houses. That's typically what we're looking at in infill. For example, in
But
Cape,
when you buy something from D.R. Horton, I mean, unless I'm misunderstanding, D.R. Horton doesn't buy one-offs, doesn't build one-offs. They usually go buy, build, take 40 acres. At least here in Phoenix, that's what they do. They come in. I think my very first home was a D.R. Horton home or something, a subsidiary. I think it was called Continental Homes, whatever that is these days. But I think it was belonged to D.R. Horton, but they came in, they bought 40 acres, they developed it, and they put something like 5 houses an acre on there. So basically, they turned into like 200 houses. That's what I know them to do. What are you saying is they're also building smaller pockets that you pick up, or
yeah, and
or
I don't want to be too focused on DR Horton here because they're one of about, I don't know, 200 builders we
okay,
work with.
sure,
They traditionally, when you do think about, I mean, because they are the largest national builder, you do
right.
think about them doing entire community developments, but that's not all they do. And certainly some of the more regional local builders will do infill lots, and that's also the type of stuff that we focus on individually with our internal building as well. So it just really depends. But even in some of those communities, yeah, we can go in and cherry pick some of the best deals in there, if that's something we're looking to acquire.
So that really means we should be working together here because we and our students have lots and lots of infill lots that we come across, and we typically take those infill lots and we sell them to builders. So perhaps we need to let you guys know first about them, and perhaps if that's in a market that you guys are operating, perhaps you guys can come in and say like, yeah, we'll take it. We either build ourselves or you bring the builder in right away. It could be an even faster sale for our students and could provide some extra supply for you guys.
There certainly is a potential for that. I think I was on Pace Morby's podcast last year and had the same conversation, and then we had 1,000 people reach out about trying to sell land. And I don't think most of those fit our buy box, but we certainly could be a buyer potentially. On the land side, we do buy a lot from developers and wholesalers too. If it makes sense, it just depends if it's an area where we have demand, where we plan to do more new construction.
Well, Pace is not a land guy. He's a creative finance guy. So Pace's people don't know anything about land. Now I love Pace. He's a good friend of mine. He was on my podcast just a few weeks ago. But again, his people are not trained in actually figuring out what the land is. They're basically
the land people. You're the land.
They're basically yeah. But Pace's people, my understanding is that they're just they find an opportunity. It's a creative investment opportunity. Let's throw it somewhere and let's see who can buy it. And we're much more targeted. But anyway, it was just an idea. But let's go back to what you do. So I understand there's 200, 300 builders you work with. And I completely agree. A lot of the builders, they are very happy to build a one-off property and then have a buyer ready to buy them. It makes total sense. Now let's look at it from the investor side of things. How does a picture typically look like for an investor? What's their return? What's their cash requirements? What's their underwriting requirements? What their credit score needs to look like? Who are you looking for to work with from the investor side of things?
Yeah, and I think that's a great place to start. It's just a typical investor avatar that we see. And so generally the type of investors that we see benefiting the most from this type of turnkey service is someone that is either a newer investor and they're looking to build their own portfolio, someone that potentially, and they want some more handholding because we're not just selling properties as well. We're helping people build a real estate business. We're providing, all the guidance and resources they need on what type of LLC structure you need. What are the best financing options based on your goals? So we have a marketplace of turnkey inventory across the country, but we also want people to be successful long-term because we know that real estate investing is a lifelong journey, as I know you talk about, Jack. So our typical avatar is someone who's just getting started, needs some guidance, someone that lives in an expensive market and like the local real estate just doesn't make sense for them because it's too expensive. A lot of these coastal markers or markets where the average home price could be, whatever, $800,000, and it just won't cash flow unless you're putting 50% down. We have a lot of just high paid professionals that, like real estate. They want to own real estate. They don't necessarily want to be a landlord and they're looking to scale and invest in real estate in a more passive nature. And we also have some of the full-time real estate people that are like, hey, I'm cruising on my business over here. I'm doing all sorts of interesting projects. but I just want to take that money that I earn in real estate and put it into buy and hold rental real estate to grow my long-term hold portfolio, in addition to maybe maximize tax benefits, like get those additional cost segregation benefits, or something like that to offset their active income. So, all those kind of investors funnel into us, and we're happy to work with whoever. As far as like the financing qualification, we have a whole list of lenders. I mean, you don't have to use leverage. Most people do. We all know the benefits of using leverage. A lot of investors are using just conventional financing. Your Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loans, putting 20% down. We have some people that have maximized those or need DSCR type of loan products. We have lenders that offer those. We have creative finance options where we have credit unions that will offer multiple investment property loans with as little as 5% down. We're not talking about FHA where you live in the house. We're talking about true investor loans where you put as little as 5% down on up to 5 investment properties. If you qualify for those, you still have to qualify for them. But that's a low
How do you
down payment.
qualify for one of those?
You need to have a 740 credit. You need to have 45%. Your DTI needs to be 45% or below. That's the biggest criteria because the debt is obviously higher. You're 95%.
DTI means basically your how much you have in payments compared to your income.
Correct. If your incoming debt is payments $500 a month, you need at least $950,000 a month to cover that to qualify for that loan structure. It's a 30-year loan with a 10-year balloon with a fixed rate for 10 years. So that's a portfolio product that a lot of our investors do. And one unique thing we're doing right now is we will actually, it's on specific inventory, we will actually pay the 5% down to allow you to get into a property with no money down on some select inventory, not everything. So that allows you to come into a brand new built house where you have zero money out of pocket, right? Now, the caveat is that may or may not cash flow at 95% leverage, but that is something to consider and some of the unique things that we're working on with investors. So the client journey, to answer your question, is usually the first thing we want to do with every investor is have a discussion about, like, what are your goals, right? Have a consultation with you. We don't charge investors anything. We get paid through building houses and selling them like any builder or brokerage does. But we bring you in, we have conversations with our investment strategy team. We learn what your goals and strategy is. And then we walk you through the steps of how do you apply that, right? What type of financing do you need? What type of legal structure should you have in place? What markets and properties should fit your goals? And then you buy those, right? You go through this is a normal investment purchase. You go through the same due diligence of appraisal, inspection, title work, financing. Once you go to the closing table, take over management, make sure you have your banking information set up, and you're off to the races. Then we focus on scalability over time. How can you maximize tax benefits of real estate and scale your portfolio to accomplish your goals?
Very, very cool. So how big is your team in order to be able to do all of that?
Well, the majority of our team is contractors, right? 1099s. So we have about 80 of those across the country. Our internal team is, I think, 18 full-time employees at this point in time. And we work across 12 different markets. We did just under 1,000 doors last year. So that's across.
Very nice. Very, very nice. Yeah, that makes sense. And that a lot of them are contractors because you have a lot of the finance people, they're not on your team. There's like a finance broker that has relationships, but you put somebody can come to you as like, I don't know what I need to do. I just want a house and I want some cash flow. And so you're like, okay, great. So you can take them through the process, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. For example, we don't have, I have my own personal real estate CPA and attorney, but those are not part of our team, but we have excellent resources to share with you. Some of those being my own personal people that I use. But what type of tax structure you're putting in place? Do you need an LLC? What type of financing makes the most sense for you? And we put you in touch with those individuals as part of our network. You utilize them if you want to, and then we help you facilitate buying the property and setting up your investment goals, right? I mean, if your goal was, say, whatever, $10,000 a month in passive income, we help you reverse engineer that to say, all right, based on your resources and your timeline, what do you need to do now? What type of properties and how many of them and which markets do you need to acquire to ultimately achieve that? And then we help you hopefully expedite that using some creative tax strategies and all the fun things that real estate offers.
Absolutely, yeah. We have plenty of different episodes where we talk about all these different things. So very cool. So let's switch the thing just a little bit. Like, what can go wrong when somebody does that? What are some of the risks and how do you guys mitigate them?
Well, I always want to remind people that this is still real estate, right? So this is different than, say, investing in a fund where you are a limited partner, a passive investor, and you are turning over your capital to someone else to manage, and hopefully it goes well. Obviously, there's risks associated with that as well. There's risk with everything, but this is very much still real estate ownership. Now we will handle everything for you from management and assisting you, with all the things that you need to be successful. This is more on the passive end of the spectrum of real estate investing. This is probably the most passive you get with actually physically owning 100% of your assets yourself. But this is still real estate, right? So you need to make sure you have appropriate insurance in place. You need to make sure that for example, you're still leasing to people. This is a people business. We still go through evictions. We have people that move out. You still need to do repairs on the house. That's why we like new construction. So you have minimal repairs. But it's all the things that real estate, like this, does not remove your risk from owning rental real estate, but it can be done in a manner where you minimize your risk. We have an extreme process we go through in vetting and placing tenants. We make sure that you're set up appropriately on the legal structure, state dependent. We want to ensure that you're operating this like a business. And I think that tends to limit and mitigate a lot of the risk, especially if you're a newer investor thinking about buying your first property or buying your first property out of state. I mean, there's a lot of variables with that if you have to build your own team from the ground up. And so those are the risks we try to mitigate and alleviate.
Okay, very cool. So you guys thought of pretty much all of it. You're doing 1,000 doors a year. That is a substantial effort. And it's great. And I think you're doing a great service to society by educating also the people out there that real estate is more than just owning something and then dealing with headache tenants. It can actually be done something in a hands-off way. You can ultimately benefit of all four advantage of real estate, which is obviously, first of all, is the cash flow. Second of all, is the depreciation. Third one is the appreciation. And the last one, I forgot what the last one is. What's the fourth one? There's a fourth one.
We refer to, and this is along the same lines. We refer to real estate as the ideal investment, right? Because these are all, and this is an acronym for all the ways you earn income and grow your net worth. So I as income, right? That's the cash flow. And I forgot to mention or answer your previous question. We usually see about 8 to 10% or 8 to 12% cash on cash return from the property itself.
That's good.
On average, we have some that are higher, some that are
Sure.
lower, depending on the property. Average price point, $200,000 to $300,000. So, down payment of 20% of that, or possibly 5%. But I is income, cash flow, D is depreciation, E is equity buildup as a tenant pays the loan down for you.
That's the fourth one. Yes.
A is appreciation, and then we like to throw the cherry on top with L being leverage. That's of course what allows you to exponentially increase all those other returns.
That's exactly right. Yeah, the fourth one was the loan, the equity increase as the loan gets paid down, because you don't pay down the loan, your tenant pays down the loan. So again, as a land guy, I'm typically like people always like making fun of, not fun of, but by basically like pointing out the differences, like all the hassles that you have to deal with houses. But it doesn't make houses a bad investment. We have about 25, we're down from about 40, 45 rental houses. We're about 25 rental houses, but we also have almost 1,000 apartment units. And why do we do this? Because at the end of the day, it is a great storage of money, while at the same time it goes up in value. The loans go down. You get cash flow. You get tax benefits. So it is a great place. I just necessarily am not a fan personally of making my money flipping houses, because that includes a whole bunch of headaches. So I rather let guys like you do all the work and dealing with the contractors and really dealing with the things. And then basically, if I would be a passive investor, I would invest with you and just have my money work and have you guys have the experts manage that. Makes total sense. So with that said, how does somebody get a hold of you? How can, if somebody's watching this and is like, you know what, let me check them out. That sounds like a good concept. I would like to put my toe into that and perhaps get my first house. How does somebody get a hold of you, and how can they find out more about this?
Yeah, Jack, I think that and first and foremost, appreciate you having me on here. We love what you guys are doing, and really excited in the land space of all the cool things you're teaching people to do and changing their lives. And so as a thank you for that, we want to provide a benefit to your community as well. We want to provide a $500 closing cost credit to anyone that comes from your community. So they could visit our website, which is renttoretirement.com. They can visit the link. I think I'll provide to you. But the best way is to text REI to 33777. That's REI to 33777. That will get us on your or on our dispo list. And we'd love to schedule a call with you to just even if it's just talk about markets, right? If you just want some market information, if you want to learn about some of these creative finance options, lender options, or if you're interested in investing in turnkey properties, obviously make sure to mention that you're from Jack's community so you can take advantage of that $500 closing cost credit as well.
Absolutely. So text the word REI, so the letter R, the letter E, the letter I, REI to 33777, I think you mentioned, and then make sure that you mention you come from us so you get the $500 closing credit. Okay, well, awesome. Well, thank you very much for being with us. With that said, thank you very much, Zach, for being with us, and that's a wrap.